Hey, this is CANDIA RAQUEL, and you are at the Sensual Sessions podcast, the place to explore sensing pleasure through your senses and moving in a way that is completely free from inhibition and full of self expression. If you are new here, please get yourself signed up to get these episodes delivered weekly on your inbox at www.centrodepoder.com. This is www.centrodepoder.com. So today we have a very special guest. This is Margaret Kaye. She's from Australia. She's a Feldenkrais method practitioner and trainer assistant. And we already recorded one episode about the Fechner-Webner law in regards to sensitivity. And we laid all the scientific background with our two personal case studies and more on how pleasure is so important for health, for recovery, and for a wholesome life at any level, not only from the physical, but also from the mental, spiritual, and emotional realms. So we are recording a trilogy just for you, and this is the second episode that will be about sensual touch. And the following episode is going to be about sexuality. So please keep an eye on the coming episode and also go check the previous one. I'm going to link them all below here so you get the context. So today it's all about touching yourself, touching others within a very important frame that is arousal and non-arousal. It's very important to know yourself to the point of discerning when you're gonna get off and when you're just delighting. And I was sharing with Margaret about my experience before starting the recording, and we decided just like to lay it all out and to lay it all hang loose here, so you get also the raw feeling. So I was telling Margaret that as a Pilates master teacher trainer, I am very aware on how to touch my clients. And when I gave for over a decade the Pilates teacher training, I was like very exacting with my students on how to touch, which areas not to touch, like the genitals, the breasts, not to caress, and to be very straightforward with the touch often accompanied with verbal cues, which is also a good idea when you are touching like a friend or someone, like make it consensual, first in a verbal way, very specifically, and then like just make the touch part of the conversation. Like, I'm gonna touch here because I want you to feel your breastbone or whatever, or I'm gonna hug you so the other person knows like what to expect. And this is so important to be consensual about touch, to the point that touch has been banned altogether for Pilates teachers in New York. Like, if you're a Pilates teacher, no matter how experienced and how like acknowledged you are, you cannot touch your client. And actually you need to be 1 meter of physical distance afar from your client. So this gives us an idea of the implications of touch, positively and negatively. So this is a little bit about on the professional, and now I'm gonna talk about the personal, and I am doing all this background so we can dive in a very juicy conversation with Margaret, that is the expert on touch. So on the personal level, I wanted to say that I am chronically touched deprived all the way from childhood because of the way that touch was handled in my family. Like, I wasn't touched at all. And perhaps because we have a background of Dutch immigrants that, even though we are not officially Protestant, like that's the root and the culture from 5 generations back, like very cold. And if you greet my mom, like if you find her on a conference, she works at the university, she's gonna greet you with a kiss, but barely touching. And oftentimes, like there's no touch, there's just the pretense of like, here's my cheek, but like she has so mathematically calculated this bodily distance that she knows where to stop, like half a centimeter before physical contact. And also, if you're gonna greet her with the hand, like she extends the whole arm, and so now you're like one arm distance apart. And also hugging, like all she throws her arms forward and she hugs all with the only with the hands, and patting in the shoulders, and like, okay, dismissive, bye. And I don't know, like I come from there, but I am very Mexican. I am like very touchy, very colorful. I like the food and the delights and the sensuality and colors. Like here we are at the Sensual Sessions podcast. So on the other way around, where the warmness of touch should be expected, there it's often lacking, because this fine line between arousal and non-arousal touch is unclear. So in a way, like it's always better to not get touch at all than getting an inappropriate touch, because that's officially abuse and molesting. So all of this to say that touch is very important, because in a way we learn like who we are, like our physical dimensions through touch, because as Margaret said in the previous episodes, we as babies discover the world all by ourselves, first rolling in the floor, then sitting, then crawling. Like it was through touch that we learned primordially about the world, and that haven't changed. And I feel that as a whole, we are very confused in regards to touch as a society, because like there's very inappropriate touch oftentimes in regards to abuse and trauma, and on the other hand there's this coldness and the deprivation of physical touch. And the objective of this core center episode in our wonderful trilogy with Margaret Kaye is to bring light in how important touch is, how to set a clear boundary, and how to be better at touching yourself and touching others in a non-arousal way. So then we have the basis to go to arousal, which will be the next episode. So, well, this officially has been the longest introduction in all the Essential Sessions. So I'm handling the microphone all to you, Margaret. Tell us, what's your take on touch?
Okay, well, you've covered a lot of material there. You've got about 10 subjects in there. But maybe we should go back to the concept of what is called touch hunger.
Yes.
So in our childhood, there's an expectation that we'll be touched, and if we're not touched, we actually have potentially neurological delays in our development, which means that we may be cognitively and physically delayed. So touch is a human touch. There's the way of rolling around where you have your contact with the world around you, but there's also the interaction of human to human. That's really critical to our brain mapping out pathways of movement and coordination and intelligence and understanding and so on. So that is a critical factor. And well, I don't know if you've ever held a baby, they're pretty cute to cuddle, and they love to cuddle usually. And they'll let you know if they don't. So it is a human interaction that we are genetically designed for. So which is to touch. And in the modern world, as we get older, we reduce our touch. We're not cuddling like a baby and the baby jumps on you and all that kind of stuff. And then we have cultural patterns of touch interaction, as you described. So I'll give you an example from my childhood. So I have a European background, and we have a cultural pattern of greeting, which is different to the one you described. So while we didn't get many cuddles or anything, like whenever my family had a gathering, as the children, we had to go to each adult, and we'd get 3 kisses on the cheeks. And that's the tradition in my culture, right? And in some cultures it's 2, in some cultures it's 1, in some cultures it's none. So it's very different according to culture. So just to make that point. But having said that, then there are cultural expectations, and there are also, just going to the issue of consent, there are power dynamics involved with touch as well. So the expectation, for example, that we go around to every adult, there's a cultural expectation of whether adults impose this on the children. There's nothing wrong with that per se, but the holding of power is what you have also as a practitioner in Pilates, for example. And same with me as a Feldenkrais practitioner. So there's a power dynamic because people have an expectation, and also they are relinquishing their power in terms of their interaction. They're expecting input. And the consent issue is a critical one because, as you said, people need to understand how that will go. So when we got the 3 kisses, for example, we understood that. Okay, but if something is imposed upon you without the understanding, it may feel like it's not something that you consent to. So the verbalizing or indicating somehow physically that you're going to interact on a physical connection is an important element, and there's more of that these days than there used to be. So there's the Me Too movement, for example, where it's about the imposition of power over people. Needs to be challenged, and there doesn't have to be an expectation that that will take place. Consent means that there's more of an equality in the dynamic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. So important.
Yeah. And I also talk about this a lot with the people that I'm mentoring and teaching, the issue of consent, because there's an expectation that in a one-to-one session that you will get touched, but you need to explain it to people. And it's also the case with just general interaction. So let's say I run into my friend at a party, and I haven't seen you for ages. It's so lovely to see you. hug.
Hug.
Now, are they comfortable with that? If there's a history where we do that, probably I would expect that that may be the case. But I have a friend, for example, that visited not so long ago, and he just says, hug, and he hugs and he squeezes and you can't escape. And I have to kind of really moderate my response to that and go, it's okay, he's a friend. Because the tightness of the hug is him expressing his care, but I'm feeling it as something potentially not safe.
Yes.
So I have to moderate that responsiveness that I have.
Yes.
I could also say a little bit lighter, mate, and respond to that in that way, in a verbal way. So just back to the kind of power dynamic, I wanted to give you a little quote. So we're not going into the detail of the actual touch. We're just talking about the ethics here. But it's not from Mr. Feldenkrais. I'm going to just get off the screen for a sec while I find the quote. But it's something that I just posted on my Facebook page, which somebody else had posted. And that's a little quote from Viktor Frankl, who's a philosopher or something. And he said this, and Mr. Feldenkrais also followed this idea as well. And here's the quote: between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Now, let me explain a little bit how I interpret that. So let's say somebody comes up to me and they're going to grab me. Now, there's the stimulus. The response might be fight, flight, freeze, or something like that. Survive. The response might be, something like that. The different kind of element of just joy at the possibility of what's about to happen. But I've got a moment where I cognitively determine how I'm going to respond. Okay, so just back to that example, somebody was going to give me a hug. I knew it was going to be too rough for my sensory system and my feeling of safety. But I also know that I am safe, and it's an expression of love from a friend. So I interpret that cognitively and I accept it. I could also, in that moment, go away. That's my reflexive action. My reflexes will just go like that. But I have that moment to make that decision. Between stimulus and response, there is a moment. Yeah. So I'm giving you an example of something that's potentially a bit yucky, but it's also the case with stuff that's a little more gentle. But what it means is that there's that moment where you can slow it down, your reflexes, bring in your cognitive interpretation and deal with it in that way. But it's about slowing. So now reflexes are what they are described as. They're a reflex, they're a habit. So if I'm about to fall, I'm going to do that.
Yes.
And I put my hands out to support myself so I don't bash my head. That's a reflex. If I don't have that reflex, I've got disability. But when we bring our attention to our moment between the stimulus and the response, I can also deal with it in a certain way. So let's say somebody's about to touch me in a therapeutic context, and they say, they touch your breastbone, let's say. So we're talking about the sternum. Is that what you're talking about?
Sternum.
Yeah. Okay. So they can tell you or they can not tell you. And what feels safe to that person, because that person has the power over the person being managed, handled, in learning context, whatever it is. If the person's cognitively aware, yes, you may introduce is it okay if I touch your breastbone? If they're not cognitively switched on for whatever reason, you may want to introduce the touch in a different way, or just through the tone of the voice.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, introducing the touch, not going directly.
Exactly. Exactly.
Lobbying.
Exactly. So we kind of explored that a little bit last time, the introduction versus the not introduction. We did speed actually, but let's just say I go, "G'day," and I grab your hand and I shake your hand. That's a little bit different to going like that.
Yes.
The quality of the touch will provide different information.
Yes, or for example, sliding your fingers between the fingers of another person. That's super intimate, which is very different than a handshake.
Because it has different cultural meaning. But it also has different sensory meaning.
It has different sensory meaning.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we've gone a little bit off topic, have we? We're on topic.
No, well, all around the touch and consent, which is never too much.
Yeah.
I think that's...
I'm a bit surprised.
Yeah?
You go.
Yeah, I think consent is a sticky topic because at least here, as a Mexican woman, we are not motivated to build our consent muscle. Like everything imposed to a woman is on the basis of the supposition that a woman means a given yes, and that's why there's a horrible situation of abuse. And then even being like an educated woman with a safe upbringing and everything, like very luckily, there's like this thing that at least I, even myself as a teacher and everything that I know, and I am very rational, I oftentimes default into yes. And then I even feel that it's my fault not enjoying the experience, whatever experience, could be a consensual touch in massage or with the physiotherapy because I broke an ankle at ballet class. Like I am working on this recently. Like I need to pause to get to sense my yes and my no. at a physical level beyond what I default that is the appropriate. And my sense of appropriateness is based on people pleasing. So I feel it's never too much talking about consent. And I also feel that this lays a very firm ground. So when consent is clear, when consent is real, then this sustains giving into the delight of touch.
I was going to ask the question, why did they actually ban it in New York, in your context, in the Pilates context?
In New York, I don't know. It's, I think, a matter of policies.
Mm.
Yeah, you need to be a medical doctor in order to touch the client. Like, there has to be like this clinical context. And I mean, you can be a doctor teaching Pilates and touching the client, which more than a client student becomes a client patient. So there's like this clear division on credentials and the scope of practice.
Anyway, the other thing I wanted to talk about in relation to the touch, and I'm going to move slightly away from touch while I describe what I mean.
Okay.
Is so because, well, firstly, we're reducing touch because of the consent issue, and we're also reducing it because of the virus going around and because we're on our devices. So I haven't met you in person. If I did, maybe we'd hug. I don't know.
I know, yes, for sure. Super. Well, I send you a hug from distance. Shall you wish to accept it?
I will. And on that issue, during COVID, when I started doing online stuff, because I said I'd never do it, I started teaching. It sounds ridiculous, but I started teaching people how to hug themselves.
Oh, and that's so important, to not depend on the touch of the teacher to get their touch supply and not die from word deprivation, not metaphorically die.
Let's take a moment and do it, and then I'll talk about the next thing. So you just cross your arms over and hold your shoulders. Now notice how gently did you place your arms. Now just uncross them for a moment. Now do it really hard. And notice if it went faster when you did that.
Yes.
Now uncross them again. Cross them the other way so the other arm is on top. And just do it gently. So we've gone from the habitual pattern to the non-habitual pattern. And now just take a moment to sense your own connection with yourself, both the hands, where they touch, and how the arms rest on your chest and on each other, both arms. And notice, maybe I'm just imagining this, but already your breath has changed.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like a calming action. So if you just let your arms sink down a little bit so your chest holds, you're compressing the breath, pushing the ribs down, and notice that your ribs want to push the arms back up. So let that happen. Let the ribs do the work. And then the arms will sink down again and push them down. It's like you're wearing a corset. And then the ribs want to go, oh, I can do this, and push up. and then let that go. Let the arms come down and just feel what that's like.
Feels like my own inner spa.
That's nice.
Yeah, super nice. I was kind of tense in the front of the shoulders, like in the pectoralis. I was like in a hunchback position because I've been all day on the computer and all weekend and working nonstop. And wow, like the tension is gone in just a couple of hugs. All that I was getting was a hug. That's super sad and super good to know at the same time. Yes, a hug.
So I call that the self-hug. So that's just a little thing that you can do. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about is that when you, and I think we talked about it last time, I can't remember that, but when you showed me your mum's kiss and the hug that she gave, the distant kind of strategy, you see, my brain interpreted that. And I felt like that's what I was receiving too. So we respond to body language.
Yes.
So then if we just imagine that we're hugging ourselves or somebody we love, we get a different response.
Yes, we do.
Between stimulus and response, there is a moment.
Yes.
Where you listen, you feel, you learn. Now, if I was doing this and going, now hug yourself.
Oh, no, that doesn't work for rebellious people. And I think that's the line when love, supposedly love, becomes an obligation on or supposed tenderness or supposed beholding. And I feel that that's why touch is both so intimate and so important and so controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to say something about intent and also a bit on defense on my mother, because she told me that she hugged me all that she could when I was little because she read somewhere or she got a course about parenting or I don't know. So she counted 50 caresses to one side and 50 caresses to the other side.
Really? Wow.
And she does the same with her cats. And when I left my dog with her, like she's very methodical. She's a researcher from the university.
Yeah.
Like, okay, the protocol says 50 to one side, 50 to the other. Let's get onto the task.
Wow.
And now that I listen to you, well, I appreciate that because now I am not like intellectually delayed, no? Like my brain works properly because I was touched enough when I
But
was.
that's very interesting because repetition definitely helps, but it's a little bit different. And I'm not criticizing your mother. It's a little bit different to do it
Intently.
With an intention and although it is the difference between stimulus and response, but the intention is numerical as opposed to
a dialogue between the touch and the touched person.
Yeah.
So like I suppose if I cried, like she stopped touching, but that's the point. Like the 5 line, like she had a good intent, and I am very thankful she did it because now I learned that my nervous system is fully developed thanks to that. But yeah, like that is something that I've been missing, the touch with intent. And I receive it from very few friends. Like if people that I love and like hug me, and I let myself be hugged and also hug back. But I feel there's only like 2, 3 people that I physically ah, let go. Otherwise, I am like a little bit jittery and I want this to end, or how long is too long, or whatever. And I feel it's because, in a way, through experience, touch was taught to me, but there's like a missing part of education that is very mammal. I mean, the lioness licks and caress and touches their cubs, and also the dogs and the cats, and like all mammals. And
touch is a way of expressing love.
Yeah, belonging.
Whatever level you mean. Like as a baby, just also, if the baby cries, it doesn't mean they don't want it. It means that you might reassure them more through touch.
Yes.
If your friend has a sad moment, you might say, "Can I hug you?"
Yeah.
And like, then you hug them and they're like, oh.
Yeah. And touch is so healing, like
yes,
so healing at many levels. Like it's not just an emotional thing, but it's like a fleshly neurological reorganization, especially when it has this clear emotional intent. And I also believe that's why touch on the negative side can be so destroying. Like just an ill-intended caress can mark someone for their lifetime. So now my question is how to learn, in a way, perhaps not to feel, because we feel and that's it, but how to learn how to welcome appropriate touch. Like how to let ourselves be touched, starting with your own hand. Because now that I was hugging myself, I also had a sad micro episode of realizing, like, it's been long since I don't hug myself or touch myself or anything. Like, yes, like uh, I shower myself oftentimes, like numerically, like, okay, the head, the armpits, let's get this done, because I'm out of practice of.
And we have unconscious behaviors. So what you just did, you shower and you're not thinking, how am I going to shower? You just do it.
Yeah.
Or you know, we might scratch our head.
Yeah.
As an unconscious behavior. But then there's conscious behavior, and that's the difference between stimulus and response. Okay. And so let's just say, like we did last time, we touched the fingers. And now notice how firmly you did that. Now, can you reduce that so it's just skin to skin? It's just the skin.
Wow. Wow.
Now put your hands down. Now, can you just imagine where, or feel, I should say, sense where your left little finger is? Can you feel where the fingernail is?
Yes.
And the first joint below the fingernail?
That's a little bit blurry. I'm getting there. Getting there. I'm there. Okay. Found it. First joint.
Notice how slowly you had to go to get that place?
Yes. I had
and
to.
And then to the second joint. Now to the second joint.
What's the difference between the second joint and the connection with the hand? That's a question I've never been asked. I'm trying. Okay. Finding it. Okay, I'm there.
And now where it connects to the hand, the third joint.
That was easy. Immediate, almost. But the second was super lost.
Mm. Now, just take a moment to feel the difference between the left finger, little finger, and the right little finger. Is there a difference?
Huge difference.
What's the difference?
The right little finger is like a ballerina, and the left pinky finger is like a log. Yeah, super gracious. And
oh, interesting. Often it's the other way around, but which one feels bigger?
The left one, the log.
Right. So it's more there in your presence?
Only as a dimension, but like a block of flesh.
So let's come back to this. Touch the little fingertips. And now, where are you touching? Just the skin or deeper?
A bit deeper, but I was not as clumsy as in the first one, as pushing.
Okay. So just go back to the fingers, to the skin, and then go tiniest bit next to the fascia between the skin and the muscle. It's just like under the skin. Tiny, 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 tiny. It's almost no difference, but it's a lot of difference. And then go a little deeper to the muscle, where you can really feel the muscle.
Wow. Ooh, immediately.
And now go a little deeper to the bone. Bones. So you can feel it's almost bone to bone.
What an experience. Wow.
Now go back to the muscle, the fascia, the skin, and come apart.
Fascia, skin, and come apart. Ooh, this is almost psychedelic.
So notice how slowly we went.
Yes.
And notice what your fingertips and your hands feel like now.
Spa. Yeah,
what did you say?
Spa. Like my personal spa. Yeah, shoulders, neck, everything relaxed. No worries about the future. Everything in life is perfect. The world is gonna heal and everything is good.
Because you're present in the moment.
Yeah.
You're present in the moment. And the hands, as we discussed, take up a huge portion of our brain. So we've said to the brain, everything's okay. Right now, everything's okay. I'm here. I'm me. I can make the choice on how I make touch.
Yes.
Now, if I go to touch you,
I did this. I went forward, which was very strange and surprising, because you reached your hand forward to the camera, and I saw myself in my screen, like moving my cheek forward. And then I realized that I was doing that, like unconscious thing. And I love how our bodies just communicated intent without the need of words. Like, we have established a rapport, because otherwise, like, my Dutch upbringing would have kicked in, and I would like squirm back, like, yeah. And I leaned forward.
You know, what you've just said is really interesting. It's about the rapport in terms of interaction and communication. So we read each other's body language all the time, and we also mirror each other.
Yes.
So if I go like this,
I went
potentially
forward
you'll
again.
go like this. If I go like this,
I am like worried. uh, we have super established rapport here, and it's lovely that people can see it. How does it looks like in, because it's in real time. Like body language is fast, way faster than what you take to elaborate a, a position or a stance in regards to something and express it. It's immediate. It's almost like a reflect, and it doesn't lie. Like Martha Graham says, the body doesn't lie. Or you have to
yep,
be very good dancer, actor to and believe your lies in order to lie with the body.
yeah.
But
So it's about sensing yourself.
sensing yourself. And you
Yeah.
know, I feel this is key for consent. Like while you decide if it's a word yes or no, your body is already telling you if it's a leaning forward or a squirm or a quickly squirming back, or
Yeah.
you might try to pretend, but you're gonna feel your stomach sinking and your heart like crunching if it's a no, or you're gonna uh, see that on the other person that you want to touch.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So can I give you another example?
Yes, please.
Just while we're talking about slow, it's a little bit off what we were talking about consent, but I'm not going to do this, but for those listening, and you might want to do it or imagine it, can you imagine that you're in a rush?
Every day, all day.
So you're in a rush and you've got to go and get your coffee before your meeting starts, which is what I did this morning.
Yes.
Okay, so just feel what the physicality of that is. And then if you want to, you can just have a little walk with your rush.
Yeah, hectic.
And even if you're not walking, you might be imagining that you're walking. And this may or may not be true for you, but when you walk in a rush, your pace is such that the positioning of your legs while you're walking actually gets narrowed. Boom, 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 boom. Now, if you go to the coffee shop and you're not in a rush, you've got all the time in the world, you've got a cute dog with you, which I do, you've got a cute dog with you, and you just go to the coffee shop and you're going very slowly, and notice that even just thinking about it, it feels lighter.
Yes. Wow. Imagination plays a role in organization, self-organization.
Now, can you keep the light and notice how your legs, imagining it or doing it, are responding? And what generally I'll find is that they actually take a longer step when we're relaxed and slow.
Yes. So we may even actually be faster.
And then you take that gait, that type of walking, with the slow modality into a faster pace, but keeping the softness, the lightness, and the length of the foot stride. And you go faster because you went slower.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Faster than when you were going fast.
Faster than when you are going fast. Way faster.
Yeah. This sounds a little bit crazy, but this is all about slowing down, experiencing yourself. This is the same with touch. not just like that, but slowing down, experiencing your behavior, noticing how that travels through you and taking that into an action. It's not just about the being present in the moment. It's also about being able to fulfill your daily life with more intelligence. Not just the stimulus and the response, but the pause between informs your behavior. So it's about slowing down. It's the same with touch. And the walking is the connection with the earth, the movement, the weight bearing, blah, blah. But it's about slowing it down to inform your experience. It's the same when you're connecting with people. Instead of just rushing up to somebody, you come in, read it, interact consciously or unconsciously, and then you make the interaction.
Yes, between stimuli and response, like allow for that space and for that time to be, which will make a synergy with yourself if you're touching yourself, or with the other person if you're touching another person.
Yeah,
it's like this slowness is the space for presence to be, for awareness. And when everything is done with awareness, then there's the totality of yourself involved in it, and the quality of the gesture and the delicacy makes it way more efficient and effective, and you're gonna arrive faster to the coffee shop, and you're gonna better seduce the guy that you have a crush on. Because it's
that's next week's topic.
yeah, that was just a teaser for our next video. Yes, stimuli and response, and go slow. If you want to go fast, you gotta go slow. So effective.
Yeah. So in that space between this, I'm repeating it, in that space between the stimulus and the response is our power to choose our response.
The power
in our response lies our growth and our freedom.
In our response lies our growth and our freedom. And you know what? I am getting that pleasure is placed in the choosing. Pleasure has to do with this space between stimuli and response, where you decide if you like that or you don't like that, and act accordingly. Because if it's something that you don't like and you reject that, you get to even feel good to stay good, to go without, so to say.
Yeah. You've made the choice.
You've made the choice.
So the power dynamic is
balances.
Balanced, that's right. Yeah.
Then there is not a vertical hierarchical power dynamic. It becomes, instead of a power dynamic in this I am better or higher than you and on your command, it becomes the power of the dynamic in a synergy.
Yeah.
So instead of a power dynamic, make it a dynamic of power through consent.
That's very nice. Yeah.
That's very nice. Just to sum up what you've said.
We can take that into so many contexts.
Yes.
So, but also it's not just to clarify, it's about touch, but it's also about all of the senses.
It's all.
So the slowing down is about all of the senses. I want to hug you, but I'm going to interpret our language, our tone of voice, what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing, anticipating, when I say what I'm feeling emotionally, how I'm reading what your emotions are, doesn't mean that's right, but I'm trying to read it. So it's about all of the sensory input, and touch is one element.
Touch is one element. And this is such a great baseline to explore with all the other senses. Say, the first example that came to mind was like getting naked in front of someone else, like your beloved, or in the mirror, or looking at yourself. Like, sometimes it's nice and sometimes it takes a lot of self-acceptance. So it's different to look at, I don't know, your armpit or any area, your feet. If you have, I don't know, mushrooms in the nails, can be quite shocking. So you can like approach the things that you don't want to see in yourself slowly, or approach what is still a mystery for you in yourself to see slowly. Like, okay, sure, there are angles of my body that I haven't seen in the mirror or taking pictures or anything. So doing things gradually creates also, takes off the pressure to get a quick answer for consent. It allows you to discern if, okay, am I liking how it feels to touch my skin? Yes, I am liking it. The fascia, the bones. Okay, good experience. Go all the way. Now hug yourself, touch your cheek, whatever. Or, for example, flavors. Um, Here in Mexico, we eat grasshoppers. So, like, and there's a traditional drink that is called mezcal that is very close to tequila, and it's often drinked with a salt made of worms, like caterpillars, the one from the cacti, that from where mezcal is extracted, and that is like, so even super fancy and elegant, like in the top gourmet restaurants, like they serve you your mezcal, and then another dish with these warm salts, so you sprinkle on it, and we have the grasshoppers like toasted, roasted in a dish. And at first you think that it's like, I don't know, like toasted bacon, and then you get to see like a leg and a head and an eye, and it's like, what? I remember my first experience, and my friends were like, don't be a chicken, go for it. And I was like, mm, squirming. And also consent has a lot to do of not putting your self-image in line, nor your self-esteem. Like, I'm not more or less of a chicken if I taste the worms and the grasshoppers, or if I don't. Or what we were talking about, I'm gonna taste just one grasshopper leg for today. See how does it feels. If I like the scratchiness in the tongue, and maybe I find that I can be into it, and then I go for the whole grasshopper. So it
Well, what if you didn't know it was a grasshopper and you just had the taste, but you didn't have the cognitive information about what it is that you're tasting? Then it's a different response.
Then it's a different response. And I have a story for that. I was vegetarian for 12 years, and I was super strict. I didn't eat marshmallows nor anything with jelly because it was made from cartilage. And I told everyone, and everyone on my mother's side, the Europeans respected me. But on my parents' side, they later on confessed they put chicken or sausages or steak blended in the blending machine and pour it in the soup and in my meals. So
You know what?
Yeah,
I
like
had the exact same experience.
yeah, and that's
Exactly the
was a,
same thing happened to me.
yeah, like you don't get to be picky because I'm gonna covertly make you eat meat even though you stated because who you think you are here, and that's the dynamic power. And the problem is that yes, they won over me, but they lost because they lost my trust. And that's what you put at stake when you don't respect the consent of other person. Like you may get along with a micro abuse. Say you're just playing rough with a friend or with your partner or whatever, but that damages the trust. And most especially, and more pernicious is the harm that non-respecting the consent of yourself can bring. Like maybe not consciously, but I'm sure that unconsciously, every time I do something that I don't want to do, like I physically really don't want to do, like I am harming myself because I'm gonna lessen the trust that I have for 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 myself. So I feel that this is a great opportunity to heal in many levels, like explore consent through touch, through self-touch, and elaborate. Like, am I ready to touch? I don't know, behind my earlobe. This is a weird area for me. For example, like I am never touching, least in public and recorded, the back of my earlobe. Or I mean, there's nothing special, but I am not like that's a weird area. But I feel this is great to establish like this baseline for pleasure, learning what you like from what you don't like, and then you go to smells, and then you go to through taste and through sounds. Like, am I really feeling good with the volume I am playing my cell phone in the shower? Well, not in the shower, on the side while I'm showering. Maybe I should lower down the volume. Am I really enjoying that song? Am I really feeling good about looking at the news now, even though I should supposedly know everything that's going on in the world? Am I really giving consent to myself, from myself, to watch the news? And then if you start from there, like I believe that the doors of paradise itself will open, like the paradise of the pleasure brimming in you.
The paradise of pleasure. Amazing.
Oh yeah, been reading Adonis and Venus. Yeah, that's another teaser for episode 3 on this wondrous trip
Yes.
with Margaret Kaye.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Oh yeah, great.
There's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about. So, how should we wrap this episode, dear Margaret?
I think we've already gone through a couple of experiences,
Yeah.
like just the quality of the touch for yourself and the hug and the walking at a different pace. And it's just about, again, the difference between stimulus and response, and then to take care of yourself, to listen, not just with your ears, but to sense what is okay for you. Is this okay for me? Is there something I want to change? Is that possible? If I slow down, I may notice.
Yes, listen to yourself through your senses and slow down so you get to notice. And very
Slow
importantly,
down, you're going too fast.
yeah,
You've got to make the morning last.
yeah, because
Yeah.
slowing down, we may even find that we don't have an answer, which is an answer in itself. Like, am I enjoying this? It's not yes or no. There's also the third and very important answer that is, I don't know.
Mm.
Yes, I like this. No, I don't like it. Then you know. But what if third, you don't know? Then you have to slow down even more to find out if it's a yes or a no. And especially because in the meantime, while you get somewhere in your self-inquiry, it's a no. Like, if I don't know if I should touch that person, then it's a no. If I am not sure if I am enjoying the grasshopper leg, then it is a no until further confirmation, which then in turns like creates this safe space to give into pleasure. When, because you feel safe, the boundaries are in place, so then you can let yourself go. You can let yourself be hugged by your friend, or hug someone, or hug yourself, or touch your hands, or caress another hand, because you know, and not only on a discursive mental level of words, but at a fleshly level, where there's like this ultimate truth of the autonomous and nervous system, like your autonomous response and your delivered response. So just to wrap up the three great exercises that we learned today, it's the touching of the fingertips and doing those explorations, the self-hug, and the pacing in walking. And here we have enough material to do our homework on taking the time between stimuli and response to get to slow down, to go faster in a delightful way. So this is a good homework that will take us to episode 3.
And it's not just to go faster, it's to find a way to explore how you're comfortable to do that.
Yeah.
It's about the exploration.
It's about the exploration. It's not about
not just the reflexive actions.
Yeah, it's about the experience, because in the experience you are involved in the experience. You are present. Yeah. And the present is a place where pleasure lives. The pleasure exists in the present. Yeah, because we only feel what we feel now. Pleasure. Yeah. Yes, wonderful. Thank you so much, Margaret.
It's a pleasure.
Extraordinary episode. So tell us, how can we learn more from you?
You can go to my website and find out what's going on, or to my social media. So my website is feldenkrais.net.au. Social media is Margaret Kaye Feldenkrais. I've always got a lot going on. So, for example, in 3 weeks, I'm having a retreat in the Blue Mountains. We're going to immerse ourselves in movement practices and then just walk in the bush.
Wow.
Just breathe in the clean air and be present in the moment. I have classes, regular classes, movement classes a couple of times a week. I also do individual sessions, which do potentially include touch, and not necessarily, but it depends on what's going on. And they can be in person or online. I've also got pre-recorded lessons that you can access from my website. And they're all called easy. I've got one called Running Easy, Sitting Easy, and Sleeping Easy, which is all about going to sleep.
Nice.
And how do you do that when we're so busy in our minds even?
Yeah, you gotta make it easy. You gotta make it easy.
Yeah.
To sleep when you're so busy.
Yeah.
Great. Great. Thank you, Margaret. And thank you, Sensualist, for being here with us on this delightful episode of the Sensual Sessions. Remember that there's a previous episode and a coming episode, so make sure not to miss the trilogy. And also go find Margaret Kaye at her website, feldenkrais.net.au from Australia, and follow her on Instagram at Margaret Kaye Feldenkrais, where you will find her beautiful, beautiful, beautiful drawings. Those are very inspiring. And if you haven't done it already, go grab the free guide to awaken sensuality on my website at www.centrodepoder.com, which is www.centrodepoder.com, which means center of power, but in Spanish, because you know I'm Mexican. So until next time, remember to take the time to sense your fire, you know, the time between the stimuli and the response, so you can share your flame.